10,000 soldiers stood at the edge of a city, ready for what they believed would be a quick victory. But something was wrong. There was no battlefield, no open ground, no place for their cavalry to charge. Instead, there was a trench, a long, deep barrier cutting across their path, stopping an entire army in its tracks. And in that moment, everything changed, because what was about to unfold in the Battle of the Trench was not a normal battle. It was a war where strength meant nothing, and time itself became the weapon. After the events of Battle of Uhud, tension in Arabia did not disappear. It grew. Quraysh of Mecca were not satisfied. Losses had been heavy at earlier battles, and influence had been shaken. So instead of acting alone, they built something new, a coalition. Tribes across the region were gathered, alliances formed, and a large force was assembled, not just to attack, but to end the conflict completely. The goal was clear: surround Medina, break its resistance, eliminate the growing power inside it. Inside Medina, the situation was different. The city was open, exposed, and completely vulnerable to large-scale attack. There was no fortress, no defensive wall strong enough to stop cavalry. And now, an army of nearly 10,000 was approaching. Time was running out. A normal battle would mean immediate defeat, so a decision was made that had never been used in Arabian warfare before. Dig a trench. A massive defensive trench was planned along the exposed side of the city, not a wall made of stone, but a physical gap in the ground itself. The idea was simple, but revolutionary. Horses cannot cross a trench. Cavalry charges lose all power. The enemy loses its greatest advantage, but execution was brutal. Men worked day and night, digging under pressure, knowing that failure meant destruction. The entire city participated. It was not preparation for war, it was preparation for survival. And slowly, the trench began to take shape, a long barrier separating Medina from the approaching army. Not visible strength, but controlled defense. And when it was finished, everything depended on it. The coalition army finally arrived. Around 10,000 soldiers stood outside Medina, confident, organized, ready. They expected resistance in open ground, a quick confrontation, a direct battle, a decisive victory. But what they found stopped them. A trench stretched across their path, not a wall to break, not an army to fight, but a barrier they could not cross. Confusion spread. Cavalry units attempted to approach. Infantry tested movement forward, but every attempt failed. The battlefield they expected did not exist. Instead, they were forced into waiting. And slowly, frustration began to build, because for the first time in their campaign, they had no clear way forward. Days passed, then more days, but nothing changed. No decisive battle, no breakthrough, no advantage gained, just distance and pressure. Inside the coalition army, frustration began to rise. Supplies started to stretch, morale started to weaken, unity started to crack, because an army built for speed and dominance was now stuck in place. Inside Medina, the situation was different, but equally tense. The trench held, but uncertainty remained. Every night carried pressure. Every moment required vigilance. No one could relax, because the enemy was still there, waiting, watching, trying. And then something deeper emerged. Fear was no longer only outside the city. It began to exist inside it too. Rumors, tension, uncertainty about what could happen next. The war was no longer just physical. It had become psychological. And in psychological warfare, time becomes the strongest weapon. Days turned into a slow struggle. No major engagement, only attempts, failures, waiting, and pressure that never fully disappeared. The coalition began to realize something dangerous. They could not win quickly, and the longer they stayed, the weaker they became. Nature itself began to shift the outcome. Harsh winds swept through the camp. Cold conditions made survival harder. Supply lines became strained. The coalition that once looked unstoppable started to lose structure. Arguments grew between groups. Trust weakened. Leadership struggled to maintain control. And slowly, the purpose of the siege began to fade. There was no victory, no breakthrough, no progress, only exhaustion. Eventually, the decision was made. The coalition would withdraw, not in triumph, but in failure. The siege that was meant to end Medina ended without a single decisive battle. When the army left, the silence that followed was different. It was not the silence of victory in battle. But the silence of survival against impossible odds. Medina remained standing, not because of strength alone, but because of preparation, discipline, and strategy. The trench had changed everything. It turned open warfare into controlled defense. It turned numbers into irrelevance. It turned expectation into failure. For the Muslims, this moment proved something critical. Victory is not always about fighting. Sometimes, it is about preventing the fight from becoming possible. For the region, the message was clear. Medina was no longer an easy target, and warfare itself had changed. The age of simple battlefield dominance was ending, and a new form of conflict had begun. Some battles are remembered for their violence, others for the fact that the battle never truly happened. This was one of them. If you want the next chapter in this series, from survival to expansion to empires changing forever, subscribe and stay with the story.